Hello, and welcome back to the Nourish with Purpose podcast. Like always, I'm so glad you are here today to listen to today's episode. Really quick before we jump into it, if you haven't yet, I would ask that you would leave a rating and or review on either Apple Music or Spotify. And if you want to be entered into the Wellness Bundle giveaway, first do that. Send it to me so I can see. And then also, if you add that you're listening to this podcast on your Instagram or Facebook story, you get additional entries. So the Wellness Bundle giveaway will be drawn at the end of the year, but I always like to remind you in case that's something you want to get entered for. All right, now that we have gotten that out of the way, I hope you are doing so great on this Wednesday or whenever you're listening to this podcast. Today's episode, I'm going to be talking a lot about my morning routine, and I would say a lot of the ways that I nourish my mind, body, and spirit actually happen in the morning. I am someone that loves to utilize every second of my morning, and so I'm really eager to share what I do day to day, and I'm going to really get into the nitty-gritty. So I'm going to tell you what products I'm using, what I'm putting in my morning coffee, all of the good things, because when I listen to episodes like this, I really love to get all those really juicy details. And also what I'm going to do is give you kind of some advice on how you can actually start implementing your own morning routine. If you don't have one yet, or if you're looking to maybe just kind of up-level your morning routine, maybe you wake up and you don't feel super great and you're not really motivated, hopefully these things that I share with you both motivate and inspire you to just start and just jump right into it. And I know it's not easy to adapt these habits. That's why I also want to preface this by saying I have started my morning routine or creating my morning routine probably in the last 3 years. So yes, my morning routine is going to sound very maybe complex to some people. To some other people that have been having a solid morning routine for years and years is going to be like, oh, well, she doesn't really do that much in the morning. But regardless of where you fall on this spectrum, I really do think there's going to be pieces you can pull from the episode, and also maybe also the understanding that it's okay to start with one thing. And I know that is where I often fall short, is I think I need to do either 100 things or nothing at all. And so I would say most often I go for the latter and I do, or the first one, and I do 100 things instead of just doing one thing really, really well and consistently for weeks or months or years. I like to just do everything. So my morning routine is definitely changes day to day, and it's not always the same, but I'm going to give you what I would say it is a majority of the time. But before we get into that, I want to catch up with you, kind of chat about what's been going on in my life recently. And I know I've talked about this on previous episodes, but we got chickens, and so we have broilers, and broilers are the ones that you butcher. And so we have been taking care of those each morning and evening. They are in these little huts, and we had quite the storm this last week. Not really storm, but it was 70-mile-an-hour winds, and we had rain. And I already had one chicken. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw this. Frankie, poor Frankie, he lived in my kitchen for a little bit in a box, and then we moved him out to the garage because, well, Nate moved him out to the garage. And he was on the uppity up. His legs, I don't really think his leg was broken, but Frankie was just in there vibing. He couldn't move, but his water and his food was super close to him. And he could, eat, drink. He pooped, he was doing fine. He just couldn't move. And so when we had that storm, there was another chicken that broke its leg. And so I brought it inside. I splinted its leg. I put it in the box with Frankie, thinking, okay, these two, they're both trying to heal. They're both in a little bit of pain. Hopefully they, can just heal together. Whatever. They were in two separate areas of the box. So I go out there the next morning, and the other chicken, not Frankie. Frankie was gray. He was dead. and the other chicken was standing on his neck. And so that was how I started my morning. What day was that? Maybe Wednesday morning. It was pretty terrible. I learned through that lesson that you truly cannot stop nature from running its course. And regardless of how well you want to take care of things and how good your intentions are, sometimes things just, like nature just has to do its thing. And chickens are kind of evil creatures. And if they have a chicken down, they'll typically like peck it until it's no longer living. And so now that I've brought that gruesome story into today's podcast, I think that all goes to say, if you listen to the Pilgrim episode on this last Wednesday, Pilgrim Girl Fall, I share all about homesteading and just kind of what life on our farm looks like. Know that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, because I think, when you watch maybe those aesthetic Instagram videos of people taking care of their animals and they're in those flowy skirts and dresses, I would say that is a reality for probably like 1% of the population that lives on a farm. And it's not, most of the time, it's not that plush. And so I just wanted to share that with you, because if you've been following along, poor Frankie is no longer with us, but the other chicken is. And after he had killed Frankie, I stuck him back in the pen with the other ones. And I was like, if you're going to be mean, I'm not going to feel sorry for you. And he's thriving. Got his little splint off the next day. And yeah, he's doing well. But other than that, yesterday, I'm recording this on Monday, the Wednesday before this gets released. And so yesterday was Sunday, and Nathan and I went to church. And we started the morning with running 4 miles together, and then we went to church, and then we spent the rest of the day at my parents'. We had lunch there, and then we just hung out there the rest of the afternoon. And then we had supper at Runza with my grandparents. So that was really nice to just have a full day of family shenanigans. And what else have we been up to? We've been watching the Beckham documentary on Netflix, and that has been so interesting. I was a little hesitant. Honestly, I didn't know what I would think about it. I'm not a big soccer person, but realizing how good, and maybe, I was born when David Beckham was popular. So it makes sense that I don't really know how good he was, but I didn't realize how incredible of a soccer player he was. I always just saw him in ads or like posing with celebrities, right? Or I knew he was friends with Tom Cruise, but I never saw him in actually like playing a sporting event. And I had no idea how good he truly was. So that's really interesting. If you haven't watched that yet, I would highly recommend. It's on Netflix. I believe it's in like the top 10 TV shows or documentaries that you can watch right now, or that are kind of like popular in the nation. Other than that, I signed up to officially run a half marathon. Gosh, this intro is all over the place. I am so sorry. Honestly, if you want a little glimpse inside of my brain, I'm giving it to you, because my brain is kind of like this. It's a little like I'm doing a million different things and they just kind of pop up randomly. So I signed up to officially run a half marathon. I'm going to be doing the Good Life Halvesy with my friend Olivia, and I'm a little nervous, but it'll be okay. When I did the half marathon, I ran it at home by myself, and Nathan just rode his bike behind me to make sure I was safe and well for 13.1 miles, but actually running in a race setting, like I literally just got goosebumps, so my stomach's starting to hurt. Just a little bit nervous, but I know that I need to push myself to do something like this. Running has, honestly, I feel like my mental toughness, I thought it was my pain tolerance, I truly thought it was pretty high until I started running. And I think it's so much higher now, because although running is not as painful as it used to be, I used to run half a mile and I wanted to die. And now I run further than that and I feel pretty comfortable. But it's like, if you're somebody that doesn't just go out for a run, it's like, wow, this is magical. My body feels so strong. I feel wonderful. No, you're not alone, because I was telling my family this yesterday. I thought that when I started training for a half marathon, that eventually I'd get to the point where, you think of like a runner and the body type of a runner, and you just think about what they look like when they're running. Like they're kind of like a gazelle, right? Their legs are long and skinny and they're just trotting, and it looks so easy and effortless. And I thought, maybe eventually, like if I ran further distances, maybe I'd get to that point. No, I can confirm that is not the case. I in no way feel like a gazelle as I'm running, and in no way look like a natural runner. Well, I don't really watch myself run, but I could assume it doesn't look like the most beautiful runner in the world. And so I've just realized, no matter how far you push your body, some of us are just not built to look and run like a true runner. But I will say that doesn't mean you can't actually run, no, we're not maybe going to look like those Olympians that they're 6'2" and have the longest legs in the world, and they can just effortlessly run 20 miles in one shot. But that doesn't mean you can't start running. And that's just what I have to tell myself, is it doesn't mean you can't run because you don't look like somebody that runs. You can just do it. Okay, so yeah, I signed up for that. What else has been going on? Honestly, I feel like I really gave you the real gamut of my week. Pretty random, pretty bizarre, pretty all over the place. And I love it. I love it. My life is like that. But that was extremely random intro. But let's get into how I'm nourishing my mind, body, and spirit. How I am nourishing my mind, I would say this would have to be by reading, and not just reading for enjoyment, although I love doing that, but I've set a goal this month to read 20 minutes a day of a book or research that is within or correlates to the type of coaching that I do. So I do anti-inflammatory focused coaching. I focus a lot on food and using food to heal your body. And obviously we go into lifestyle factors too. But food is a huge component where if your diet is poor, you're probably going to feel pretty poor. That could be with bloating, constipation, diarrhea, or joint pain, muscle pain, fatigue, brain fog. Like the symptoms are so long if you're eating a really poor diet. And so I have been just really trying to stay up on my research, and just really, I've noticed too, when I am reading books that align with what I'm doing in work, I feel much more prepared to get on one-on-one calls. I feel much more equipped to help. I think we all kind of have imposter syndrome in your job. I have so many personal experiences. I have education. I have certifications, like all of these things. I have a college degree that, really should make me feel confident in like that I know absolutely what I'm talking about. The truth is I feel like no matter how far you get into having your own business or working at a job, a little part of you is always going to be like, am I really qualified? Even if you absolutely are qualified. And I am. Like, I'm qualified to be doing what I'm doing. But I've noticed that reading books that pertain to the coaching I do has just made me feel much more confident in myself. How I'm nourishing my body is truly nourishing my body with really good food. And this all goes back to meal planning and meal prepping. I don't do so much of the meal prepping. I prefer to have fresh food for every single meal and not have pre-made meals, although I know some people really love that. But what Nate and I have been doing is we've really been getting on a budget this October because we've got projects we want to work on the house. We've got just other things we want to be paying and putting our money towards. And so one way that I really feel like has helped with that is we write out what we're eating for supper for every meal. So I only make supper at my house. Nathan takes care of himself for breakfast. Usually we have some sort of leftover in the fridge for lunch for either of us. And then for supper is when I make a fresh meal. And so we've been planning out every supper. And by having that planned out, then I'm able to see what I have in my fridge, see what I have in my pantry, see what I need to buy at the grocery store each Sunday. And then we enter the week, and I really feel like not only have we saved money, but I actually utilize everything that I buy. And that is such a good feeling. I think back to college and how when I spent money on my own groceries, I would probably go grocery shopping once every 2 to 3 weeks, and I would truly try to get by with as little or with like the most random food possible. Like if I had some pasta, maybe I had some frozen chicken, and then I had some marinara sauce. Well, looks like we're making a knockoff chicken parm, just like super random recipes that I would have to be creative about. When you have limited ingredients and you don't want anything to go to waste, you have to like really stretch your brain to be creative. And I've realized that is why I love cooking so much, is because it allows me to be so creative. And when you really have to utilize everything you have either in your fridge or your pantry, and we're not perfect, right? We still have a surplus of food. I told Nathan we could get by for at least a month with the food we have without ever getting groceries again. Not ever getting groceries again, but for the rest of the month. But we don't, because we love our fruits and vegetables. We love fresh fruit. We love fresh vegetables. We love to have a fresh protein source, not frozen. And so that is an area where we do buy weekly those products, but it's just fun to really stretch yourself and get creative in the kitchen when okay, this is what we're eating, but what can I add into this meal so we can use up what we've got already or use up any leftovers? It's just been really fun. And I posted if you're on Instagram and you're not in the podcast channel group, you should do that. If you go to my page, you can see right under my profile, there is a channel option. And I had asked on there if you guys would like a Cook With Me podcast. So it would be a bonus episode each month, and you would truly be in the kitchen with me. I would, in the description, put all the ingredients that you would need for the recipe, and then I would walk you through it. So while I'm making the meal, I'm talking to you, telling you what to do next. And I think it would just be so fun. And a lot of you voted yes, that you would like that type of content. So that is something that will be coming to you very shortly. And I'm really excited to start that with you. So that really, honestly, I think being inspired in the kitchen has led me to want to share that with other people more than ever. And so that I had that idea, and I'm like, I feel like people would actually really like this. I personally would love to have something like that to listen to and have somebody guide me along for an entire recipe. Because especially if you are maybe single, or you only live with maybe some other roommates, or you're just really the only one cooking in your household. Like Nathan helps out a little bit, but usually it's me cooking. He'll usually prepare the protein, ground meat or something like that. Not to discredit that at all. But when you're in the kitchen by yourself, not that being in that silence isn't a wonderful thing, but even just to have somebody talking to you while you're doing it, I think it could be so fun. So I'm really excited about that. Side note, but I wanted to add that in. How I am nourishing my spirit is I have started listening to the That's the Point podcast with Kristen Johns and John, I don't know his last name. But if you don't follow Kristen, she is a YouTuber, but she's really big on Instagram. And I just really love her style. She cooks a lot, but both of them are it's so refreshing to listen to that podcast because they so openly talk about their faith. And I think that is something that most of the podcasts I listen to, they don't really talk about their faith, or maybe they're not really super religious, but I like the health content that they give. Well, they kind of do it both. They're funny, they tell really interesting stories, but they also bring in their faith with it. And in this episode, I listened to this last time, they were talking about how much feedback they had gotten that people love that they openly talk about their religion. And they're like, well, it just makes sense for us to talk about it because it just is what naturally comes up in our conversations. And so to listen to people like that, you just realize how much more refreshed you feel when you leave the podcast, rather than feeling maybe more anxious about your own life or stressed that you need to make all these changes or whatever the case is. I feel like there's a lot of podcasts where they don't talk so much about religion, and I never truly feel like a sense of ease after listening to their episodes. I feel maybe a little bit more high stress, high strung, But whereas when I listen to the That's the Point podcast, it's like I'm laughing when I'm listening to the podcast. It truly is just so joy-filled. And I think a lot of that has to do with that religion piece that they bring into their episodes. Okay, now that I talked to you for 20 minutes about the random things going on in my life, let's actually get into the bulk of today's episode. So talking about morning routine. So first, again, I want to preface this by saying, if you don't have a morning routine, please do not take on every single thing that I do and mimic it in your own life, because my morning routine is specific to me and my schedule, whereas your morning routine is going to look probably a lot different. But I'm going to give you all the details, and I hope that something kind of pops out for you where you're like, okay, this is what I need to implement into my morning routine, or what I'd like to implement. I also want to talk about this concept called bookending your day. So this is actually a term that I learned when I was getting certified to become an integrative health coach through IIN. And it's bookending your day, meaning that you want to have habits in the morning. They talk typically about having 3 habits that you're consistent with in the morning and 3 habits that you're consistent with in the evenings. That means if you start your day and end your day in the same way every single day, you are in general going to feel calm. You're going to feel aligned with what you're doing. You're going to feel confident. Like your mindset is going to change tremendously because you're not running around like your head's cut off, right? You are just focused on those 3 things before you head to work or before you head to class or school, and then ending your day with 3 things that help you wind down. Okay, so we want to start our day with things that motivate us and end our day with things that calm us. And so that is something I'm going to add into today's episode too, is give you a little bit of that ending of your day, right? So I'm going to talk about morning routine, and I'm also going to talk about how I end my day, because bookending my day is truly something that I feel like I live by pretty consistently, and I want to show you how you can utilize that. So how I start my day. I start every single morning, typically by setting my alarm for 6 a.m. and ending up waking up about like 6:45 a.m. That is an area I know I've talked about on so many of these episodes about that I'm working on. And yes, I'm working on it, but truly with the sun getting like rising so much later, I'm allowing my body to rest a little bit more and not really feeling guilty about it. So I ideally would be up about 6 a.m. This is the practice that I've implemented that I truly think has changed just how I feel, probably the biggest. And that would be seeing the sun before I see my phone. And so, yes, I shut my alarm off on my phone. I close my eyes when I shut it off because I just don't want to even see the blue light. I get up, I put on my workout clothes. So I get out of bed, my feet hit the ground, I walk over to my clothes that I've laid out the night before, and I put on my exercise clothes, put on my socks, knowing that the next step is me heading to the bathroom. So after I put on my workout clothes, and then I head to the bathroom. When I get into the bathroom, I wash my face. I only wash my face with cold water. So I wash my face, kind of splash it a couple times with cold water, pat it dry, and then I brush my teeth. And so I brush my teeth. I use a bamboo toothbrush and the Young Living toothpaste. I really love that combo because they're both, again, low tox. I talk about that very often. There's no microplastics breaking off into my mouth that I'm swallowing, and there's no fluoride in the toothpaste, and it's just what I've found works best for me. So after I do that, I head into my office where I have my workout mat, and I actually bring in my 5-minute journal and my Bible in there with me most mornings. And so I sit on my workout mat, I'll put on my tennis shoes, grab my AirPods or my computer to do a workout, and I will journal first. So I do my 5-minute journal, fill in those questions, and then I read one chapter of the Bible. And I've been starting in the New Testament, so I'm working my way through Matthew right now. I'll read one chapter or more of that, typically about 5 to 10 minutes. I'll shut that, put it on my desk, and then using my computer, I actually have 2 different platforms that I do my workouts off of. So the first one is Form. It's by Sammy Clark. I really love her workouts because they're both strength and Pilates focused. And I also sometimes will watch my platform Balance that I've created that has workouts on it. Watching yourself work out is just kind of something that's a little hard for me to get past. But if I do that workout, I typically just listen to it and I don't watch it because, like I said, it feels a little weird to watch yourself exercise. So I mostly utilize Form. I like the workouts on Balance, don't get me wrong. But for me, I like to watch somebody else work out over myself. So I do those workouts. It's typically, and I've gone through my schedule before, but it's either going to be lower body, upper body, or full body. Those are the workouts that I follow on Form. And so I'll do one of those. It's typically about 35 to 45 minutes where I'll actually lift and use my dumbbells here. And so after I do that, I most likely will go then take a shower. That is when I use my face wash. So in the first part of my morning routine, I just wash my face with water, cold water. This is because I notice the less product that I use on my face, the better my skin looks. So if you're somebody, and I'm not saying this won't 100% work for you, but if you are washing your face with face wash maybe 3+ times a day, I would really encourage you to back off of that and actually use it a little bit less. And the reason why is because your skin can very quickly get irritated, or it can honestly strip away that top layer of your skin, right? And so then your face is always kind of tender and it's more susceptible to acne or breakouts or getting all of that dirt buildup on your face. At least that is what I have best understood and realized within my own self. And it's funny because I think back to when I was younger and I had terrible acne and it just made me so self-conscious and I hated it. I felt like I was the only person that had just such bad acne, and I'd be so mad because I would wash my face 4 to 5 times a day. I would use all these topical creams. I would put moisturizer on, and it was always my friends that honestly didn't ever wash their face, just used water, just used a generic moisturizer that had the clearest skin. And it was always so confusing to me until I actually started practicing it. And I'm like, I get it now. My skin is not constantly overwhelmed with product. It just can, be clean with water. And then eventually I'll use face wash. So I use face wash 2 times a day. That is the face wash I use is by Coco Kind. I love all of their products. I just use their generic cleanser. I also then use the Young Living body wash, and I use the Function hair conditioner and shampoo. That's the one that I buy at Target, but you can squirt in different, products that align with your hair goals. And so I do mine for kind of wavy hair, colored hair, or color protectant. And then those are the shampoo and conditioner that I use. I would love to find a better brand, but I don't want to spend money and just toss these out. So I'm going to use them up until they're gone. After that, I get out of the shower, and that is when I will use body lotion, and then I will actually do my facial moisturizer. So you can see in the morning when I just wash my face with cold water, I know I'm going to sweat. So I don't want anything that might clog my pores or make my face super oily before I exercise. And so after I get out of the shower, that's when I moisturize my face, and I actually use beef tallow. And before you say, oh my gosh, that's absolutely disgusting, give it a try, because my face is at the most moisturized it's ever been. I've noticed my acne breakouts. I still get some breakouts around my chin area, and I've realized it's just because I touch my face more than I should. But those breakouts will clear up within maybe 2 to 3 days, rather than sometimes they're there for 5+ days before I started using this. And it sounds like it would be something that would clog your pores, make your face break out because it's fat. It truly doesn't. It is so healing, and it's such a good product to use. And I have to admit, I was very slow on getting on board with this. My friend Emily, it was about a year ago, she told me she was using beef tallow, and I was like, are you sure? That is bizarre. That's really the only face product you use. And it was. And so it took me about a full year to actually be like, okay, let me try it, And I love it. I truly love it. And so that is something that I've added in recently. I also had posted on Instagram that I had made my own deodorant, and a lot of people asked for an update. And I have to say it was a fail because my armpits are sensitive to baking soda. And I realized that because I literally got all these like breakouts on my armpits and they were so painful. And I actually had to use like an antibiotic cream on them. So I bought the Native deodorant at Walmart. It's baking soda free, aluminum free, and we're going to try that. So far, so good. But I will just say that recipe is wonderful for natural deodorant if you are not sensitive to baking soda. And I definitely am. So will not be using that, but I did enjoy it before it caused me extreme pain. So after that, get out of the shower. Then I head and I make breakfast. This is a key piece to my morning routine. And if you followed me for a while, you might be thinking, shouldn't you have had breakfast first before you exercised or before you started all of that? I do want to say that everything that I do in the morning, when I talked about getting up until I go to make my breakfast, that's always about 45 minutes to an hour. And I always would recommend eating within an hour of waking up. And that is truly something that I do most mornings. The exception would be if I go out for a long run, I don't get home within an hour. And so it's a little bit later. I am someone that, yes, I am hungry as soon as I wake up, but I do not like to exercise on a full stomach. And I've noticed that my body actually performs better when I don't have food in my system, but this is also because I do not take a pre-workout before I exercise. If I take anything, it's going to be an electrolyte packet, and I use mine from Primal Hydration is the brand that I use for that electrolyte packet. And I just put that in water with some ice, and I'll drink half of it before my workout, and then after my workout, I'll drink the second half. So that is the only product I use. There's no caffeine in that. If you are someone that wakes up and, maybe you do want to go work out in the morning, but you take a pre-workout, that is when I would say you should be eating something like a banana or a granola bar, something that you can grab and take with you either to the gym or to wherever you exercise, because you never want to have caffeine on an empty stomach. And so that is why I do not eat breakfast until after I'm done working out, because I'm not consuming any caffeine. And I've noticed that when I eat after my workout, they always say within 30 minutes of a workout, you should be fueling your body. And I would go as far to say you should be fueling your body, yes, but it should be in a way that includes the Core 4 method. And that is something that I've created. And it's really nothing super unique, but it's something that I don't think a lot of us focus on when we go to eat a meal. So for breakfast, I will do a piece of sourdough bread, and it changes. Don't get me wrong, it changes. I'm sometimes on an overnight oat kick, and then other times I like eggs and bacon and a piece of sourdough. But I would say most often it is a piece of sourdough, and then I use that Fage lactose-free yogurt. It's a Greek yogurt. I use the plain kind. I use that as my spread. I do blueberries. I do the Purely Elizabeth granola, just the plain kind. You can get it at Walmart, Hy-Vee, anywhere. I even think Super Saver has it. And then I will top it with kind of a drizzle of peanut butter. So when I look at that meal, it contains the Core 4. Okay, so if you've never heard of the Core 4, that means having a carb, okay, a starchy carb. So something kind of bread-like, pasta-like, rice-like, and then having fiber in the form of a fruit or vegetable, okay? And then you have a healthy fat and a protein. So when I look at that, I have my toast. My toast is my carb, my starchy carb. The yogurt that I put on top has 20 grams of protein per serving, and I put a full serving on the top of my bread. So I'm getting 20 grams of protein just in the yogurt. That is both my protein and it is a healthy fat. And then I put on my blueberries. That would be my fiber in the form of a fruit or vegetable. Then I do my granola. That's a starchy carb. And then I do a drizzle of peanut butter, which is a healthy fat. So you could see I have more than one in my starchy carbs and more than one in my healthy fats. But altogether, I'm at least getting one of each category in that meal. That is the piece that I will say is absolutely crucial in your morning routine. If you are somebody who runs out the door without breakfast, or on the other hand, if you're somebody that says, I'm never hungry for breakfast, then that is when we need to evaluate, the speed of your metabolism. Because I will say, if you're somebody that wakes up in the morning and you're not hungry, most likely, and this isn't to freak you out or to make you paranoid, but most likely it's because your metabolism is tanked. Okay, so a slow metabolism means that you burn calories at a slower pace. It means that your body is not metabolizing food for energy as fast, so maybe you notice you're energy deficient. All of that to say is a way to jumpstart your metabolism, to boost your metabolism. Maybe if you notice losing weight is really, really difficult, that equals a slow metabolism. That means we need to be eating something in the morning for breakfast. And so the best way for you to eat something in the morning for breakfast and feel really good about it is to include the core four. Because not only is that going to help with your metabolism, it's going to balance out your blood sugar levels. And if you're doing any type of caffeine in the morning, you better have something that is balanced for breakfast. This is not just a granola bar out the door. This is having healthy fat, fiber in the form of a fruit or vegetable, a starchy carb, and a protein. That is going to set your day up for success. So if you're taking notes and you're listening, or you're like, what should I be adding to my morning routine? I'm not sure what I want to focus on. If that is something you are not currently doing, that is the number one, absolutely the number one change that I see clients make that improves their health tremendously. It improves how they feel. It gives them energy. They no longer feel the crash. It is a huge piece of the puzzle. And that is advice that I'm going to give you and repeat over and over again is you need to be having a balanced breakfast. And I'm not saying this so firmly to stress you out if you're not doing it right now. It's okay, because guess what? You have so much life where you can make this change and implement this change. But I really, really encourage you to start now. That is, again, probably the biggest piece of my morning routine is that breakfast. So like I say, I do a delayed breakfast. It's an hour after I wake up, but it's still within that window where I wake up hungry, but then I decide to exercise. And then by the time I'm eating my breakfast, I'm actually fueling my body for the day ahead, and I'm replenishing the energy that was depleted during my exercise, right? I burned calories during my exercise. I lifted weights, so my muscles were tearing and they need to rebuild. Having good food after a workout, especially in the morning, is the biggest thing. I absolutely threw out the rule, and it's not a true rule, but I always told myself that breakfast should be a small meal. You want to save up those calories for your big meals like lunch and supper. That is such a lie. Please, and this is going to be a mindset thing that takes time to do, but really treat breakfast like a meal. That absolutely changed my view of food, because I no longer felt like I needed to eat as little as possible when it came to breakfast, just so I could eat more throughout the rest of the day. But when I fuel my body, I don't pay attention to calories at all, right? That could be different depending on what your personal goals are. But for me, I know I am active enough throughout the day, and my body needs those calories in the morning, so that way by the time I get to lunch, get to supper, I feel satisfied all day. I don't have a depletion in energy. I can drink my morning coffee and feel really good after it. I don't feel shaky, don't feel jittery, don't have a headache. That is something I will continue to say over and over again, is just really focus on that breakfast and treat it like a meal. Okay, so by the time I have breakfast, it's probably around 8 o'clock. If I haven't showered, sometimes I'll do that after I eat breakfast if I really need something after a workout, right? The intensity of a workout, it depends. But I will eat my breakfast. It's around 8 o'clock. And then I will go and I'll check my planner, make sure I don't have any calls that I need to be on, see what I have to do for the rest of the day. After that, I check that all, typically get into my computer, look at my emails, see if there's anything that came up overnight, and then I will go and make both my husband and I a coffee. And so in my coffee, we have an espresso machine. I will do a double shot of espresso. I have a homemade pumpkin spice syrup that I put in it. I also do just a splash of maple syrup. The pumpkin spice syrup isn't super sweet, and so it's sweet, but I like to balance it with just a little bit of maple syrup. And then I'll do homemade cashew milk, ice, and then some water. So I would say, the double shot comes to more like 3 shots because I'll add water, and then I just do a splash of milk. And then I'll make him his coffee, bring that to him, and then I truly jump into my work, which every day is so different. Like today, it's recording a podcast. I'm sitting here with my coffee, my water. Water is a piece I didn't mention, but super important. That's where like I had said, I use those electrolyte packets. I'll drink the second half of that packet or that water, the electrolyte water after my workout with breakfast or while I'm making breakfast. But my water's right here with me too. So to kind of give you a breakdown of what days look like for me, and again, this doesn't have much to do with my morning routine, but it's just shows you how different every day is. But when you prioritize that first hour and a half of your morning, which I know an hour and a half to some people, it's like absolutely no way, I've got to get to work, whatever. A lot of times if you say you don't have even 45 minutes or an hour, it's because you're not setting your clock back late enough or early enough, and you're not going to bed early enough. Okay, so I'm blessed that my job allows me to, start working around 8:30 or 9, and I get everything done for the day that I need to. I know that's not the case for everyone. And so even if you can give yourself an hour before you go to work to really, really focus on whatever it is that you want to add into your morning routine, I would really encourage you to do that, because I have some days where I have calls at 8 a.m. That means I have to set my clock back a little bit to make time for my morning routine. But I've noticed over the years that if I don't get that full morning routine in, I am a mess. Okay. And no, being so dependent on a routine is not necessarily the best thing. And I'm not super rigid every morning. I'm truly not. But those days when I don't do it, I notice a difference in the afternoon. I notice a difference in the evening before bed. I just feel like the whole day I'm behind. Okay. It's a mindset thing for me. I'm not saying it's ideal, but it is truly how I feel. If I don't get in that hour to an hour and a half of time for myself, time focusing on myself, time pouring into my own cup. I talk about that so much. Pouring into your own cup. Huge piece of the puzzle for your entire health journey. If you don't have time in the day to pour into your own cup before you're having to pour into other people's, you are always going to feel depleted in energy. You're always going to feel overwhelmed. Your cortisol levels are going to be up the roof, because you've never learned to manage your stress, and you never have times where you actually get to breathe and have time for yourself. And yes, I understand we've got busy lives. You've got kids probably. I know I don't have kids. And again, I'm going to have to make adjustments when that day comes. But what I will say is that I am always going to prioritize myself, even when I have kids. And I was talking to a client about this, because I know as a kid, if I see my mom putting herself first, at first, as a kid, you get a little upset, right? You're like, wait a second, my mom's always bent over backwards for me. She's always made my breakfast. She's always helped me get my bag packed for school. And now she's getting done with an exercise and then ready to take me to school or making me breakfast. Like, why is she not doing everything for me? I'll say, I'm sure kids have a little resistance to that at first, but the more they see you as a parent pouring into yourself and putting yourself first, the more they are going to then be inspired to do that for themselves as kids, right? Or as young adults or as adults. I think kids really truly need to see their parents putting themselves first sometimes and putting them on the back burner. It doesn't mean you're neglecting your kids. It doesn't mean you don't love your kids, right? But as a parent, when you are showing them that you will drop everything you possibly can to take care of them, I think you're giving them a false expectation for maybe what their spouse would do for them in the future. So that's something for you to think about too. And it depends on the age of your kids, right? You have a newborn infant, you need to take care of them because they can't take care of themselves. I'm talking more of like the elementary to high school, college age. It is good for kids to see their parents putting themselves first. Growing up, seeing my dad prioritize exercise to a fault, honestly, to a fault, but he always prioritized that, and that's what I prioritize now. I prioritize my morning movement because my mental clarity after that, I am ready to sit at a desk all day, and I'm ready to listen to clients, and I'm ready to help people through their issues because I've taken care of myself. If I was neglecting myself, I can guarantee I would be a pretty crappy coach, pretty crappy friend, because what am I pouring from? My cup is completely empty. I have no energy day to day. I don't want to do anything. Like, how am I supposed to help people if I'm not helping myself, right? Not to go on a tangent with that, but I just think it's important. I just hate to hear the excuse of, well, I don't have time, because this is the change you need to tell yourself. I need to make the time. I don't have the time, because does anybody have the time to take an hour in their morning? No, not if you look at your phone right away and you see all the hundreds of text messages that you have, and you get on social media and you start comparing yourself, and all of a sudden you're spiraling. You've been scrolling on TikTok for the last 20 minutes before getting out of bed. You get out of bed, you're already feeling like crap about yourself. You go to get dressed, and all of a sudden you hate all your clothes because they don't look like the person on social media's clothes. You don't have then time for a 30-minute workout because instead you spent 20 minutes scrolling on TikTok. You go to make breakfast and you realize, oh my gosh, it's Tuesday. I needed to be at work or at class earlier. Crap, now you're running out the door. Did you prep breakfast? Do you have a core 4 breakfast waiting for you in the fridge, like an overnight oats topped with berries or anything like that? Nope, you ran out the door with nothing. But then you're sitting at work and you're like, man, I'm really thirsty. I'm going to order coffee. So then you order coffee and okay, you didn't eat anything for breakfast. Now you had a cup of coffee with milk and syrup in it. And there's your blood sugar spiked. All of a sudden, you're ultra stressed. You're not just stressed anymore because your day started off like a whirlwind tornado. You have reached that point where everybody's pissing you off. You can't think clearly. Everybody is asking you to do 100 different things and you cannot handle it anymore. And then you get home at the end of a long day. And what do you want to do? You want to sit on the couch and watch Netflix. I'm walking you through that because that is the reality for so many people. And if that is the reality for you, I'm not saying that from a place of judgment. I'm saying that from a place of, did you realize how chaotic that sounded compared to, I'm not saying my morning routine is perfect, but compared to what I spend time on in the morning. I want you to see that comparison because it is a crucial part is that you develop some sort of consistency in the morning, something you can do day to day. And so what I'm going to do here in the last 10 minutes, I know this episode is ultra long, but I have a lot to say. So a lot of this goes back to then, like I said, bookending your day. So I start my morning with that time for myself. By the time I make my husband coffee, I know, okay, it is now time for me to serve other people. Okay, I have to do my work. I have clients I need to talk to, reach out to. I have emails I need to answer. Okay, so that is kind of that flip. And like I said, that's about 9 o'clock for me. From there, I go throughout my workday, throughout the day, and I'm not going to get into like my day-to-day routine because it is always so different, but I will find time to walk at some point in the day for 30 minutes to an hour. Okay, so that might be for you after work or maybe with your spouse after supper, whatever that looks like. But then I know that after we have supper, we'll typically sit and watch TV for a little bit. In the evenings, my goal really now is to be in bed by about 10 o'clock and be asleep for sure by 10:30. And so how I tell myself that it's time to wind down for the day is for supper, we've been eating supper with candlelit, like a candlelit supper. All of the lights are pretty low in our house. We have some lamps on. We go to watch TV. We watch maybe a couple episodes of something. And then when we decide to go to bed, I turn on the red light that I have. It is just my oil diffuser. I just turn on truly the red light setting. It's not like an official red light therapy device, but it really calms you down. From there, that is the only light we have on in the house. And I will then read for about 15 to 30 minutes on my Kindle before actually going to bed. Okay, so I'm for sure asleep most nights by 10:30. And even I've noticed with my Kindle is that even if I have 5 minutes before I know I'm going to fall asleep, I will still read before bed because it just almost exhausts my brain to the point where I get the most restful sleep of the night. So I'm not scrolling on my phone. My phone goes away about after supper is when I try not to look at it again. I actually have started charging my phone in my office because I just don't want it near me. In the evenings, I want to enjoy the evenings off my phone. And I truly try to spend that last hour before bed off technology. The only thing I will have on is, like I said, either we're watching an episode of TV, but then after that, it's the red light. It's time for the Kindle. I read for a little bit until I can't read any longer. I'm exhausted. I go to bed. I wake up and I do that all again. Okay, so I know this might sound super overwhelming, so that's why I'm going to leave you with 3 things that I think you should focus on in your morning routine if this is something you are wanting to focus on and work on and again begin to implement. And so there's little pieces in there where I did give some recommendations, but these are like, if you listen to nothing in this whole episode, if you're like, oh my gosh, she was just rambling this whole time, these are the 3 things I want you to both remember and start implementing. And I say that I want you to start implementing these too because they are the parts of my morning routine that completely changed how I move forward throughout the rest of my day. Okay. The first one is going to be moving your body. Move your body in some way. I talk about how I do like a 45-minute workout in the mornings. That doesn't have to be what it looks like for you. If you have a treadmill, go walk on the treadmill for 10 to 15 minutes before you take a shower and get ready, or tidy up the house, or maybe take your dog out for a walk in the fresh air. That would be a wonderful way to start your day. Or if you have chickens to take care of, a lot of mornings I will go and take care of my chickens. That's kind of hard work. Like when you are bringing them out food and water, whatever. It can be a 10-minute process of you walking back and forth. If you have animals to take care of, that's another way. You're moving your body. It doesn't have to be a set workout that you follow. Okay, so number 1, moving your body. I truly think you're going to notice the mental clarity you have. You're actually going to feel hungry when you have breakfast. If you're like, I'm a person that is never hungry. Again, I talked about how that could be due to your metabolism, but also if you're not moving your body, you're not really you're not really burning energy to replenish. So yeah, food might not seem super enticing in the morning. Also, if you have digestive issues and you're bloated or constipated, moving your body in the morning will jumpstart your digestive system to be like, oh boy, I need to start working. We need to start processing this food. It is a really, really big way that I think you'll notice improvements with your digestion as well. Number 2, eat a breakfast that consists of the core 4 method, right? I'll repeat this the last time. Starchy carb, fiber in the form of a fruit or vegetable, a protein, and a healthy fat. Those 4. If you have any questions on what would a breakfast look like, I know I gave one example, but message me and I'll send you a recipe. Like, it doesn't have to be something that is super hard or time consuming. The toast I make takes me 5 minutes in the morning. That's it, 5 minutes. And it fills me up until lunch, really. The 3rd and final recommendation isn't actually part of a morning routine, but it's part of an evening routine. And this would be to be realistic with when you need to go to bed so you can wake up and get ready for your day that next morning. Okay, so this might look like going to bed earlier or spending the last hour off of your phone so you know that when you actually hit the pillow, you're exhausted. That is the piece I think you'll notice, as well as if you start to implement a morning routine, you're actually going to be tired by the end of the day because within that first hour of your day, you got so many things done, right? Making your bed is one of those things where if I'm the last one out of bed, I'll make the bed every single morning. That alone is a habit that has changed a lot of people's lives because it's one thing that you're getting done in the morning, but you've accomplished it already. Within 30 seconds of getting up, you've already accomplished something. It just sets you up for success. And so really evaluate when you need to be going to bed so this can be something you're consistent with, right? Regardless of if you're a morning or an evening person, I will say having even 30 minutes in your morning where you're not feeling like you're running all over the place, like you're overwhelmed, is going to set up the rest of your day for success. And if you want to dedicate then more time to your evening routine and what that looks like, that's an option too. I've noticed that sometimes within clients too, they're not morning people, but they're evening people. So the things I would recommend in the morning, we actually shift towards the evening as long as they're getting to bed within plenty of time. That is kind of some swaps you can make. But again, do those 3 things in the morning. If you truly did those 3 things, you could get it all done in 30 minutes. Allow yourself 30 extra minutes in the morning to move your body in some capacity, eat a good breakfast. That's it. Eat a good breakfast. And then, like I said, wake up within time to do that. Don't just snooze that alarm and snooze it and snooze it and snooze it, because you're going to continue to feel overwhelmed, stressed, anxious, honestly depressed, and overwhelmed the whole rest of the day if you are not taking time to fill your cup in the morning before you are expected to pour into other people. Okay? Whew, I feel like I really got super passionate about that. I get passionate about it because it's something that has changed my life. And you might hear a lot of that. Me say that a lot of times. It's like, oh, well, this changed my life. If you take anything from any of the episodes you listen to, please have it be that having a morning routine truly will make the biggest difference in how you feel. So I have at the end of this episode, if you're listening on Spotify, there's going to be a poll and a little section where you can write in what your one habit that you're going to start implementing into your morning routine is. And I would love for you to share that with me. So again, if you're listening on Spotify, write in there. It'll say, what is one habit you're implementing now moving forward? And just fill it in, because I really love to hear all the valuable takeaways that are so unique to you and what jumps out of you from each episode. So let's go ahead and close this episode in prayer. I know it's a long one, but again, I'm passionate about it. That's why I feel like I could talk for an hour about it. So, dear Lord, just thank you for this day and the person listening to this podcast. I just ask that as they continue to listen to episodes, or if this is the first time they've ever heard anything I had to say, that there were pieces of today's episode that jumped out at them and made them feel encouraged and ready to establish a routine that would set their day up for success. I just ask that you would become a piece of that morning routine in whatever way that looks like for someone. Maybe it's prayer while they're getting ready, or reading a chapter of the Bible, or spending 5 minutes in silence with you. Just ask that, that is something that they prioritize and that they start to implement in addition to whatever else it is that they are just eager and excited to implement into their whole morning and their evening. And that as they listen to this episode, they don't feel overwhelmed, but rather inspired and encouraged. And just again, thank you for the opportunity to talk and have people that want to listen. I'm just continuously so grateful for this space and to have just an hour chatting with friends and sharing what's on my heart. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, so if you are interested in following along with my life outside of the podcast, you can find me at Bailey with 2 Y's, Seaton with 2 N's on Instagram, Lemonade, and Facebook. I hope to connect with you there, but I will talk to you again next Wednesday. Bye. Hey, if you're still here and listening, I want to talk to you really quick about something very near and dear to my heart, one-on-one coaching. Through my signature coaching program, Nourish to Flourish, I work with women to not only focus on decreasing their overall inflammation, but healing their relationship with food and doing the necessary mindset work to make these changes truly long-lasting. If you're looking to improve the way you feel and truly make changes that last a lifetime by identifying your exact source of inflammation, finding health-improving recipes that align with your goals, grocery shop with a nutrition coach, and be gracefully guided along the way, then this program is for you. Inflammation can show up in various ways such as brain fog, fatigue, stress, chronic pain, general discomfort, headaches, constipation, bloating, anxiety, weight gain, abdominal pain, restless sleep, but know that it does not have to be that way for you. Learn more and apply by going to my website, which will be linked in the description of today's episode. Feel good in your skin, never count calories again, heal your relationship with food, and let's nourish to flourish.